You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
I am back. Rodrance for Black and White Sports. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe, like, comment, share this bad boy out. The other day, I did a video and I was pretty damn hard on Deshaun Watson. Why? Because he come out and talked to the media the other day. And as part of the agreement between the NFL, Roger Goodell, and Deshaun Watson in him getting a reduced sentence down from 17 games to 11, he was supposed to be in some kind of therapy. He may be doing that. But there is supposed to be an admission, a recognizing of some kind of guilt and a blatant show of contrition. And that has been something he has not done. He's not fulfilled that. And actually, technically speaking, although I do believe that Roger Goodell doesn't have the guts to do it, technically speaking, Roger Goodell could revoke that agreement if he so chooses because he's not fulfilling those things. Well, he talked to the media, and he basically dodged blame for the issues involving 25 civil lawsuits involving misconduct sexually with masseuses. Not to mention the many, many other women that the New York Times came out and exposed Watson to have been involved with. Well, now legendary radio host, he's got a television show too, the great Dan Patrick, formerly of the mothership, ESPN from back in the day, but everybody knows who Dan Patrick is. He showed up in movies and all kinds of different media, and he's one of the largest names right up there with Cowherd or Jim Rome or one of these guys. He has come out and he has blasted Deshaun Watson, essentially saying, look, shut up, okay? Quit talking. Nobody wants to see you try to shift blame anywhere else. Let's get to this. This is interesting. Dan Patrick, this is Yard Barker. Blast Deshaun Watson for comments on the media. Yeah, I mean, Deshaun Watson was trying to portray part of his issue being the narrative that the media brought on him when, well, it was your actions that brought all this on. And by the way, it should be noted, the media largely, especially ESPN, stayed away from this. People do not remember when Ben Roethlisberger got in trouble for that one issue, it became like 24/7 coverage on ESPN for days. They had people staked out on the scene. This happens to Deshaun Watson, and it's crickets, essentially, from the majority of the mainstream media with Deshaun Watson. I do believe that was calculated by the media, by the way. So, I mean, the idea that he took heat from media, that's a joke. It's an absolute joke, and I think that's why so many of our Deshaun Watson videos actually blew up, because there was, relative speaking, very little media coverage on this guy and this entire, what should have been really and truly one of the top 3 or 4 largest sports stories running for like 18 months. But it wasn't. Interesting. Dan Patrick added his name to the list of local and national media personalities who have criticized Cleveland Browns star Deshaun Watson for comments offered this past weekend. Quote, he can't be blaming the media, Patrick said during an edition of his show about Watson, as shared by Brendan Contes of Awful Announcing, Jordan Bondurant of Barrett Sports Media website. Quote, not for the coverage. What happened? Any of that. He has to avoid these landmines. You don't want to create a headline here. You're a quarterback on a team that right now is polarizing. It feels like they're not must-see TV. If Deshaun Watson didn't have this off the field, then he would be a must-see quarterback. Absolutely. Absolutely. And now you got the issue of, is he going to crash and burn as an NFL quarterback because he missed so much time? Had a disintegration in skills. because that does happen. Per Jake Trotter of ESPN, Watson generated negative attention when he explained Sunday that he felt like, quote, it's been the media directing and narrating something else regarding his story and the suspension he served last season. The 27-year-old missed 11 games due to a ban related to allegations of misconduct during massage sessions, though two grand juries ultimately declined to indict him. Just like I said the other day, two grand juries decided not to indict him, but Houston police believed they had enough for a sexual assault indictment. They believed they had enough evidence for it, and they turned it over. So, from the police standpoint, they thought he had committed, in fact, I believe it would have been multiple charges if the police would have gotten their way. Think about that. Watson has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, and his legal team has thus far settled over 20 lawsuits. Heading into Week 1, the Browns just have 2 primetime games on their schedule. They play division rival Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football in a Week 2 clash. Later on, they host the New York Jets on Thursday Night Football. That's on December 28th. Patrick, who has more than a couple of inside sources within the NFL, hell, Dan Patrick's got sources, multiple sources on every team within the NFL due to his history covering the league, suggested Cleveland's lack of primetime matchups is no accident. Quote, nobody wants to hear that Deshaun Watson, quote, the media was out to get him, Patrick continued. We want to see him play football. But even then, I don't know if people are rooting for Deshaun Watson. When it comes to Deshaun Watson, you can't play the blame game. You were a creep and you got caught. Wow. Watson isn't hiding that he'd like to put everything linked with the serious allegations behind him as he prepares to start Cleveland's Week 1 game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Patrick's comments provided just the latest reminder that the 3-time Pro Bowl selection should carefully watch his words if he wants to avoid sparking further controversies and distractions during his Cleveland tenure. Absolutely. And I said the other day, look, we've talked about how bad, everybody knows how historically bad the Herschel Walker trade was and how bad potentially the Russell Wilson trade could end up being if Sean Payton can't straighten him out for the Denver Broncos. But make no mistake, if Deshaun Watson doesn't end up returning back to Pro Bowl form and the Cleveland Browns don't end up in the playoffs routinely, the Deshaun Watson trade will absolutely be in the top 3 worst NFL trades of all time, and it could end up setting a already not great franchise back much, much further. It could get much uglier. I mean, you want to talk about some monstrous cap hits, and by the way, fully guaranteed contract. Because for all people, Jimmy Haslam, a dumpster fire owner, was that desperate to get this guy. If you don't think that didn't rub owners the wrong way, you're wrong. They haven't given any quarterback a fully guaranteed contract since. That's been calculated, that's been on purpose, and that's also been to send a message to Jimmy Haslam as an owner. Like, what were you thinking? I mean, my God. Deshaun Watson's contract turned Lamar Jackson's contract into an absolute clown show for a year. Because Lamar was like, shit, if you give that contract to that douchebag, why can't I get that contract? I can't say I blame him too much there. Can you? Dan Patrick's absolutely right. Nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to hear Deshaun Watson acting like he's a victim of anything. Stop that. Shut up. And that's very interesting because Dan Patrick is telling you the Cleveland Browns And look, they've got one of the most talented rosters in the league. They could have a top 5, 6, 7 roster in all of the NFL. Dan Patrick is saying the fact that they're not in prime time, but twice, is calculated. And I'm going to tell you, part of the reason they're in prime time like it is, New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers, and playing a nationally branded Pittsburgh Steelers. That's it. Tell me what you think. Black and White Sports 2 supporters, peace. I'm out.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.